ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तन्न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः. Let us read from the verse 25. सक्ताः कर्मण्य विद्वांसः यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्याद्विद्वांस्तथा सक्तः चिकीर्षुर्लोकसङ्ग्रहम् न बुद्धिभेदं जनयेत् अज्ञानां कर्मसङ्गिनाम् जोषयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तः समाचरन्. Ajnanam karmasanginam. Karmasanginam, those who are attached to the actions and those who are attached to the result. Why is it so? Ajnanam, because they are ignorant. So the idea is that all attachments is the result of ignorance. And therefore, if I am attached to the result of an action, that is, if I am attached to the reward that I get as a result of performing an action, there is also this reward seeking on my part, also is a product of ignorance. Also, if I am attached to the action, that means I feel that I am performing the action, even that notion on my part also is a product of ignorance. This is what Lord Krishna wants to explain. What is the reason why there is this attachment? How come I find myself attached to the results of the action? How come I am attached to seeking a reward? And somebody asked, Swamiji, even performance of action also brings about stress. Because when you want to perform the action, you must make sure that you do it right, you do it properly. So that stress comes on account of attachment to the action itself. This sense of responsibility on my part that I am performing action and therefore it must be done properly, it must be done in a certain way. Even that also is a kind of abhimanam or the notion that I have. And that also is a product of ignorance. So how these are the result of ignorance? Otherwise they cannot be wrong. See, when we are asked to give up something, that is because it is ignorance, that is what we are asked to give up. Basically what we want to secure in our life is knowledge. And knowledge is gained by giving up ignorance. Giving up ignorance itself is prescribed in these two stages. One is giving up the various products or notions arising from ignorance, and that is done by what we call karma yoga. And finally giving up the final ignorance by the knowledge. So even karma yoga also is nothing but the process of knowledge. So when we say that this attitude of worship or attitude of self-offering purifies my mind, because this is the attitude that is born of knowledge. And therefore this attitude born of knowledge neutralizes the various notions born of ignorance. So in the verse 27, Lord Krishna explains how is it that attachment is caused on account of ignorance. What is the ignorance? And how does it cause attachment? This is what Lord Krishna explains in the verse 27. Let us read that. Prakrute kriyamāṇāni gunaih karmāni sarvaṣah ahaṅkāra vimūಢātmā kartāhamiti mañyate. So here comes our famous discussion of the person and the personality, the Purusha and the Prakriti. This is the root of that. Prakritehe gunaihi karmani sarvashah kriyamāṇāni. Karmani kriyamāṇāni, actions are performed. Sarvashah, in various ways. Prakritehe gunaihi, by the limbs of Prakriti. What is Prakriti? The parenthesis is the body, mind and senses. So, Lord Krishna says that there are these two elements, Purusha and Prakriti, the self and non-self. This body, sense organs, mind, intellect, this complex that I have is in fact Prakriti or matter. It is a product of matter. This Prakriti or matter also is sometimes analyzed as consisting of these three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So we can see the universe. This is another way of looking at the creation, looking at the universe. We can look upon the universe also as made up of these three moods or dispositions. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Sattva is where there is tranquility, transparency, tranquility, poise, balance, joy. This is Sattva. Knowledge, light, enlightenment, all of these indicate Sattva, purity. Rajas, activity. So another thing that we find in the universe is activity. And third is Tamas, dullness. So these are the three things that we can see. Either we can see purity, transparency, tranquility, or we can see activity, agitation, or we can see dullness, darkness. Sattva is light, Tamas is darkness, Rajas is a combination of light and darkness, you may say. So these are called the gunas of Prakriti. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are called guna. That is what Prakriti or matter is made up of. Everything is made up of this matter, which is of the nature of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Our personality also is made up of this Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So the Sattva also, wherever Sattva is, wherever purity is, there is light, there is knowledge. Wherever Rajas is, there is agitation, activity, action is there. Wherever Tamas is there, dullness, darkness, ignorance, lethargy, laziness, inertness is there. So in our personality, our mind, our intellect and organs of perception, all of these are the means of knowledge. So we perceive the objects of the world with the organs of perception and with our mind, and we know with our intellect. So this mind and organs of perception, they are the instruments of knowledge. They are said to be the product of Sattva. Then we have 5 organs of action. And we have this, what we call prana, or this vital force. All of these are our instruments of action. So they are said to be the product of Rajas. And this body is essentially made up of what we call Tamas. So gross body, product of Tamas. Organs of action and the prana, the product of Rajas. Organs of perception and the mind, the product of Sattva. So thus we can look upon our own personality also as made up of these 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So referring to that, Lord Krishna says here, Prakritehe gunaihi. By these 3 gunas or the modifications of the gunas, Karmani sarvashah kriyamāṇāni. All the actions are performed by these gunas of Prakriti. By Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, all the actions are performed. So, in short, all the actions are performed at the level of personality. The person is uninvolved, does not perform any action at all. That means we say person, the self or the consciousness is actionless. And this personality consisting of sattva, rajas, tamas, this personality becomes enlivened, becomes active in the very presence of this person. In the very presence of Purusha, the self or the consciousness, this personality becomes enlivened and starts doing various things. Just as in the very presence of the magnet, the iron filings, they start, movement. That not that any kind of a effort is involved on the part of the magnet. Just in the presence of the magnet, the iron filings are found to be moving. Similarly also, just in the presence of the self, in the presence of what we call person, in the presence of the consciousness, this personality gets enlivened and performs all kinds of movements, which is what we call action. So Lord Krishna says, actions are all performed at the level of personality, at the level of prakriti, at the level of matter. Because understand, action requires movement. Action always involves some kind of movement. It involves some kind of a change. It involves some kind of a modification. So my hand moves from one place to a movement. Action involves movement. Action involves change. Action involves modification. And therefore, what is it that can perform action? That which is capable of movement. That which is capable of change. That which is capable of modification. That alone can perform action. Now, Atma or the self is not capable of doing that. Atma cannot, is changeless, they cannot change, free from modification, free from movement. So that is the nature of consciousness, that's the nature of the self, and therefore, in fact, the self is not competent to perform action, cannot perform action. Of course, nor can the matter perform action by itself without the blessing of the consciousness. Like take the case of a fan. So, there is electricity and there is this fan. Now we can say that the fan rotates in presence of electricity. Electricity does not rotate, but without electricity the fan cannot rotate. Without the fan there cannot be rotation also. Only when there is this combination or association of electricity and fan that we have what we call the rotation. However, the fan rotates in the presence of electricity. It doesn't require any effort on the part of electricity to rotate the fan. The fan rotates in presence of electricity. That's an example. Similarly also you can imagine that this body, mind, sense organs complex, it just becomes enlivened, becomes active in the presence of self, in the presence of awareness, which itself is actionless. So this is viveka, this is discrimination between the person and the personality, self and non-self. If you just know this, that is all. This is all, this is basically, or the major thing this is to be known. What happens unfortunately is that this person and personality are so intimately associated with each other that we are not able to distinguish one from the other. Just as the fire, just as the iron ball and the fire. So when you heat this iron ball in a furnace and it becomes red hot, then the iron and the fire are so intimately associated with each other that you cannot say that this is iron and this is fire, because where iron is, there the fire is also. And therefore you cannot separate them. And they look one. Even though there are two separate principles, they appear as though there is just one fireball. And here also, wherever the body is or wherever the personality is, that is where the consciousness is. And therefore, you cannot say that this is consciousness or this is body, because where the body is, consciousness also is. They are so intimately associated that they appear to be one, whereas in fact there are two. We also pointed out that when iron and fire, when both of them get associated, it appears as though the iron acquires the properties of fire and the fire acquires the properties of iron. And so iron is by nature cold and black, but on account of association with fire, it becomes red and hot. So red color and the heat that we see in that iron ball in fact belong to fire. In account of association with the iron ball, the fire appears to be round, whereas fire itself does not have a form or a shape. So the fire that is formless by nature appears to be possessed of form or limited to a form. And the iron, which is black and cold, appears to be red and hot. And that is the reason why we cannot distinguish between the two, because the two are so intimately associated that where in fact there are two, there appears to be one. Here also, when in fact there are two, there appears to be one I. But in that one I, these two elements are intimately involved, the self and the non-self, the spirit and matter of the person and personality. It is nobody's fault that people are ignorant. It's nobody's fault. You cannot but be ignorant because this kind of a separation cannot take place physically. Like in case of that fireball, if I know the properties of iron, that the round, the spherical shape belongs to iron, and if I know the properties of fire, that fire is red and hot by nature, then when I see a fireball, then in my mind I can separate the two, that okay, the spherical form belongs to iron and the red color and the heat belongs to fire. So that kind of a viveka, discrimination or separation takes place in my mind. Similarly also here, it is not that we can physically separate the self from the non-self, but that separation has to take place in our mind. That self, the self, the intelligence or the consciousness doesn't have a form, doesn't have any limitation at all, doesn't have any limiting attribute at all. And therefore, whatever form, limiting attributes, whatever appear to be in I, all of them they belong to what we call the matter or the personality. And so, this is viveka, this discrimination is done. Then I know that actions are all taking place at the level of personality. It is in my intellect, in my mind, in my sense organs that all the movements are there, all the actions are there. And all of them take place in the presence of the person or the self. But not knowing this, ahankara vimudhatma karta ahmiti manyate. Deluded by this ahankara, what is happening now is, this is the classical Vedantic model of this process of identification, which also we discussed yesterday. How there is an identification of self and non-self. So when there is an identification, we forget our own identity and we become something else. Just as while watching a movie, this person becomes so engrossed in watching the movie that he forgets that he is a spectator and he becomes in fact an actor. And he starts experiencing whatever that actor is experiencing there, that is what this fellow starts experiencing here. In fact, when we were young, and we were going to these matinee shows with all these Western movies, those days, and when the children came out of the movie theater, they were so excited that they would start fighting with each other, because, that mood was still there. You just forget your identity and identify with that, become one with that. Here also, there is an identification, the self being identified with non-self and therefore becomes as good or as limited as non-self. So understand that the sense of limitation that I am experiencing is on account of identifying with this personality. All limitations also belong to the personality. All limitations are in the personality. There is birth and death in the body. On account of identification of the body, I look upon myself as subject to birth and death. Subject to death, and that is why I always suffer from a fear of death. I will die. Something is going to die, the body will die. But when the body dies, the I does not die. But then since I identify myself with the body, therefore the death of the body is my death. The disease in the body, my disease. Old age of the body, my old age. Handsomeness of the body, my handsomeness. Ugliness of the body, and that is how millions of complexes I suffer from on account of identification with body. And then I compare myself with others. Somebody is taller than me, and therefore I must have 6 inches platform shoes to be as tall as somebody else. And somebody, I don't know what else other people think, I have no idea, I'm just imagining what people must be thinking, when they compare themselves with others. That my nose is a certain shape, and so somebody else has some other shape, and therefore I must go to a plastic surgeon and try to change something. I don't know what else people must be doing. I have no idea. When you go to beauty parlor, Swami, you don't know what's all kinds of things are happening. They give all kinds of treatment on the skin and things, and that is because I identify myself with the body. And there is no There is no going away from the fact that I am going to suffer from a sense of limitation. Because body is limited in every way, regardless of how tall it is, how strong it is, how beautiful it is, however it is still going to be limited. Someday it will become old, and so I am worried about it even when I am young. Someday I will grow to the age of 37 and I cannot win the Wimbledon title. Someday it's going to happen. Even though I may be a Wimbledon champion, 6 times in a row. But a day will come when I will be eliminated. So this is the limitation of the body. And I look upon that as my limitation. My mind also has limitation. Limitation even in my feelings, I cannot always command certain feelings. I wish that I had some sympathy, Swamiji. I wish that I feel some pain when somebody is suffering. Nothing happens to me. I wish that I have some kind of sympathy or compassion. Somehow I am not able to get that compassion. I wish that I could love this person. I just cannot. So sometimes I wish that I had some of these things. I don't find them and I suffer from a lack there also. I wish that my memory was better. I wish that my grasping power was better. I wish I could understand things better. Suffering from the limitation of the intellect. Suffering from limitation of the mind. Suffering from limitation of sense organs. Hey Swami, can you read that? No, I cannot read that. Is there something written there? That itself I don't know, So limitation of the faculty of seeing. What did you say? I couldn't hear you properly. Can you say that again? The limitation of the faculty of hearing. These are going to be limited. However wonderful they are still limited. That's fine. It's not that the limitation is my problem. I am limited. That's a problem. Death is also not a problem. Pain is also not a problem. Loss is not a problem. Nothing is a problem. Whenever I gets connected to something, then alone it becomes a problem. Hundreds of people are dying every day. Nothing happens to me. I don't even bother. But when a letter comes from India, Swamiji, such and such person, your friend or related to you, this is what happened. That is it. Then I feel the pain. Why? Because I is connected to that phenomenon. Nothing makes me happy also. A lot of people are becoming champions every day. Nothing happens to me. A lot of people score the first rank. That's fine. It's only when I discover that, hey, my friend's son, this boy who used to come to me every day, now he has secured first rank. Then I feel proud. I feel happy because I am connected. In India, in a newspaper, every year, you see the pictures of the boys and the girls who scored the first 10 ranks in the university. It's okay. Once while scanning, say, hey, wait a minute, there is a familiar face. Who is this girl? Hey, sorry, don't you know? This is this person's daughter. Oh, wow, that's wonderful. Then I feel that I am connected. Then I feel proud. So understand that there is birth also is not the cause of happiness or unhappiness. Death and nothing in the world is the cause of happiness or unhappiness. It's only when I gets connected to it. That is when happiness or unhappiness can be caused. And how does I get connected? Because I gets first connected to this personality by identification, even though there is no connection. And then whatever is connected to this personality gets connected to I through that. So my Gurukulam, my ashram, my home, my car, my son, my this. Only one particular place I call mine. There are many others, but no, maybe much bigger, much, whatever. But no, only this one, because the I gets connected to that. So this is a process called identification, and this is a cause of the sense of limitation. And understand that the only thing that makes me sad is a sense of limitation. Whenever I find myself limited, that is when I find myself helpless, and that is when I feel sad or I feel sorry. When do I feel happy? Whenever, a moment when I become free from that sense of limitation. Somehow, momentarily, that sense of limitation just goes away. That is when I feel free or relieved. Unfortunately, that sense of limitation is waiting to come back. And then I fight with it to get rid of it. So what's happening is, anyway, how long can we go on with this? But the thing is that, so this is how the identification, the karma, the attachment and all this comes. But what we are doing is not knowing why I feel limited. I am all the time struggling to become free from sense of limitation. And not knowing what causes a sense of limitation, I keep doing something. So I buy a new car, that's all. And when I'm riding the car and this car is bigger and better than that of my neighbor, I feel proud and I feel happy. So I feel this car has created happiness, has given me happiness. What the possession of car has done is momentarily made me forget the sense of limitation. And therefore, I feel free as long as I forget the sense of limitation. Until I see another car which is bigger and better than me, that's all that is needed. That sense of limitation comes back again. Or my car does not run as fast as somebody else's car, whatever the reasons can be. All that we do and struggle in our life is nothing but trying to avoid that sense of limitation. I'm trying to avoid it all the time by engaging myself in something else so that I'm not bothered by that sense of limitation. It's all the time on my back, that thing. And therefore what I do is, in order to escape from that, I engage myself in some activity, in something. And therefore most of the things that we do are nothing but escape distractions, escaping from that nagging sense of limitation. So I watch movie, so hopefully I'll forget that sense of limitation. I'll get absorbed in something. I'll get lost in something so that I'll forget that sense of limitation. That's a futile activity, unfortunately, because that which helps me get absorbed today doesn't get me helped absorb tomorrow, then I need something else. And thus I keep on needing different things and stronger things, because like taking a medication, painkiller or whatever it is. So you take it for 6 months and slowly you get used to it, then you need a stronger medication. And another 6 months you need another stronger medication. After 2 years you need a different medication, whatever it is, Similarly also, I need stronger things, I need different things. Formerly 1 cup of tea was okay, now then I needed 2 cups of tea, then a little stronger tea, then 3 times a day, then tea was not enough, then coffee, then something stronger. And this is how I make myself, I become dependent, more and more dependent upon things. I simply live on the mercy of other things, that they will favor me and somehow help me forget that sense of limitation. Then I will feel relieved. This is a human story. The only way to solve this problem is to know that sense of limitation is false. That is limitation, all right, but that it is not in I, it is in non-I. And then what belongs in one place is somehow superimposed upon the other, and unnecessarily I am feeling the burden of the sense of limitation. And to feel that I am a doer, I perform this action, I am responsible, and then feeling the stress of responsibility is also because of identification with the personality. That this is a result of my action, and therefore I am successful, I am failure, and again suffer from the burden of success and failure also is because of identification with the personality. Ahankar vimudhatma, vividhen mudha atma antahkaranam, the person whose mind is variously deluded because identifications keep on shifting. Now I am identified with the body, after 2 minutes with my eyes, after 3 minutes my emotion, after 4th minute my memory, after 5th minute something else. And therefore the identity keeps on shifting, and therefore my notion about myself also keeps on shifting. If you ask me, who are you, Swamiji? You will find different answer every time. Swamiji, who are you? I am 5 feet 9 inches tall. Swamiji, who are you? I am the person who has studied Vedanta. Who are you? Depends on whatever aspect of my personality I am identified with. That is what my, my identification will be. So this is shifting identification. That's the reason why people don't even know how to deal with it. Because in the morning I'm identified with something else and they think this is what the Swami is. In the afternoon they find me something different because now I identify with another aspect of my personality. And in the evening yet every second I may shift identification. Vimudhatma, and therefore one whose mind is variously deluded on account of identifying with this personality, he feels that I am performing action, I am enjoying the result. The sense of kartrutvam, sense of doership, and bhoktrutvam, sense of enjoyership, both of these come on account of identification with the personality. And this kartrutva and bhoktrutva, doership and enjoyership are the cause of all the pain. Because when I am performing an action, I find myself a responsible person. So while performing action, if I fail to perform an action in keeping with my values, suppose I found that I was not able to be honest at that time, Swamiji, I could not be. I could not tell them the truth. I was not honest that time. I had to hurt that person, and then I regret. So this sense of doership creates in me a sense of guilt. So whenever I am not able to live up to my own expectation. And I am an enjoyer, experiencer. When somebody does not treat me properly, then I am hurt. So understand that the sense of doership creates, all the guilts are created from sense of doership, all the hurts are created from sense of enjoyership. This is samsara, this hurt and guilt. All of this comes on account of identification of the person with the personality. So this is how Vedanta explains the cause of what we call samsara, or the misery of the human life. That there is no reason. If I knew myself as I am, if I identify with the true nature of myself, there is no reason why I should feel a sense of limitation, because the I itself is limitless. But when I add something to that I am a man, that man, now say I am a man. Now already there is some union has taken place between I and man. Man belongs to the body, and I is that self. I am good, I am bad, I am right, I am wrong, I am tall, I am short, I am father, I am mother. Whatever I add into I am great, even then also. Even that great also is limited. I am wonderful, doesn't matter. All of that wonderful, great, good, bad, indifferent, all of that belongs to the personality. And that is why attachment is there. I am going to be attached. Because when I feel sense of limitation, I feel insecure. All the fear and insecurity are created from the sense of limitation. And therefore, whatever promises me to give me security, naturally I become attracted to that. So something appears to me to be a source of happiness or security. Since I feel unhappy or insecure, whatever appears to me to be a source of happiness or security becomes an object of like. I like it. And anything that threatens my security or happiness, I hate it. So that is how the relationship of attraction and hatred, like and dislike, are created. So here, Arjuna, this is the reason why people have attachment. Swamiji, this job is very important to me. Swamiji, this thing is important to me. Things become important to me in my life. Why do they become important? Because I derive a security or happiness from them. So whenever I look upon something as a source of happiness or security, it becomes important to me. Because happiness is important to me. Because I am important to me. And since I am of the nature of happiness, therefore happiness becomes important to me. Therefore anything that promises me to give happiness also becomes important. And that's how things in the world become important to me. And other things which come in the way of those important things, they become, naturally, I have an aversion or a dislike for them. So relationship of likes and dislikes, attachment and aversion. This is the mechanism. How is a wise person? The next verse tells us that. Tattva vittu mahabaho गुणकर्म विभागयोः गुणागुणेषु वर्तन्ते इति मत्वा न सज्जते. Two, whereas, Hey Mahabaho, O mighty am one, Arjuna, Tattvavit, the knower of the truth, Gunakarma Vibhagayoho, Tattvavit, the knower of the truth, knowing the distinction between the body, mind, senses and action. Gunaha guneshu vartante, knowing that the senses, mind and organs of action engage themselves with reference to their objects. Na sajjate, is not bound. In short, the one who knows what does what. So we must become clear in our account as to who does what. So So what is it that is talking? I didn't say who is talking. What is it that is talking? It is my organ of speech that is talking. What is it that is hearing? The organ of hearing, the faculty of hearing is what is hearing. Is it not that I am talking or I am hearing? No. The talking takes place in the presence of I. The hearing takes place in the presence of I. However, primarily, who is a hearer? The faculty of hearing is primarily what hears. The faculty of speech is what finally talks. This is what one has to know. This is called Tattvavit, one who is a knower of the truth of this mechanism. Gunaha guneshu vartante. What we call an action is nothing but an interaction between this matter of sattva matter, this packet of matter interacting with another packet of matter is called action. And so this personality made of sattva, rajas, tamas, that is body, mind, sense complex, interacting with the objects of the world, this is what we call action. And that while all this interaction is taking place, I, the self, is non-participating, uninvolved. In merely the presence of the self, all these movements and activities take place. That is, in presence of I, the act of speaking takes place. In presence of I, the act of hearing takes place. In presence of I, the act of eating takes place. In presence of I, any other act that you can think of takes place. So what will it do? Then this person is free. Because there is no burden. There is no complex that I am doing something. The thing is that whoever is the agent of performance of action also becomes agent of experiencing the result. Whoever performs an action is accountable for the result also. So when I perform the action, I become accountable for the result also. When I do not perform action, I do not become accountable for result also. Therefore, the kartrutva, the bhoktrutva, the doership and enjoyership, both of these belong to the personality. And I am akarta, abhokta, non-doer, non-enjoyer. This is how one who knows that doership belongs to personality and the self is non-doer. The enjoyership belongs to personality, the self is non-enjoyer. The limitations belong to personality, the self is non-limited. The unhappiness belongs to what? Unhappiness belongs nowhere. Unhappiness is merely is a notion, is merely product of ignorance, because why should there be unhappiness? Swamiji, I'm old, I'm dying. Well, what is old? The body is old. What is dying? The body is dying. There's no cause for unhappiness for the self or for the body. Neither the body feels unhappy nor the self is unhappy, but only this another entity that is created on account of identification of the two, which is what we call the ego. So that is where this happiness and unhappiness is. And therefore, a wise man, knowing the distinction between the person and personality, the Purusha and Prakriti, the self and non-self, na sajjate, he does not get bound, meaning that he is liberated. Therefore, all of a sudden a very difficult discussion came in between karma yoga, but then this was necessary also. Because even while Lord Krishna is talking about karma, it is necessary for us to know the mechanism of karma also. And so that very action also now, while performing action, you can contemplate like this. Who is performing action? Who is walking? Only when you are alone and so that time you can ask in your mind or sitting and ask, or just sitting for meditation. I can ask this question that I am hearing. Who hears? Swamiji is talking and the hearing is taking place. Who is hearing? Who is listening? The listening takes place in the presence of I. So one can meditate upon this, contemplate upon this and try to see this fact. Then I am not if I am a hearer, then there is a problem. If I am a talker, there is a problem. A speaker is a problem. Hearer is a problem. Walker is a problem. Eater is a problem. So, as Swami says, the role and the actor. You can say that this personality is comparable to a costume. That person, the self, is comparable to the actor. Just as an actor, putting on different costumes, performs different roles, and similarly also, the kind of relationship that obtains between the self and the non-self, or the person and personality, or spirit and matter, is comparable to the relationship obtaining between the actor and the role, or actor and the costumes. Even when the actor is acting as a beggar, within himself he knows that I am not the beggar, and therefore he is not limited by being a beggar. As Swami says, by the act of begging he becomes richer, in fact. If on the other hand, for some reason he forgets his identity and thinks that he is a beggar, something happens to him. When people drink too much, this happens to them. They forget their identity. Suppose he goes on stage with too much in there. It's possible that he may actually forget who he is, and he may take himself. He looks at himself in the mirror and sees a beggar, and he thinks that I am a beggar. That is it. For him to suffer from the limitation of beggar, all that is necessary is for him to think that he is beggar. He need not become a beggar. One need not be a beggar to suffer from limitation of beggar. All that is necessary is for one to feel that I am beggar. There need not be a real cause for sadness. All that is necessary is for me to think that there is a cause, that's all. As the Vedantins will give the example that when there is a piece of rope lying in front of me and I think that there is a snake there and I am scared. For me to be afraid or scared, there is no need for a real snake. All that is necessary is for me to think that there is a snake. That's enough. So the thought of thinking that there is a real snake and the real snake will create the same effect. That means the notion of the snake and the real snake have the same effect. And therefore, just because I fear of snake is no reason why there has to be a snake. Just because I feel sad does not mean that there has to be a reason for sadness. That's what Vedanta says. And so, these notions, tattvavid, so one who knows, he becomes free from these notions. All that the freedom that is required is nothing but the freedom from notions, because in reality there is no bondage. That I feel a sense of limitation is not because I am limited, I just think that I am limited. But the effect is the same. Similarly also, that beggar, that actor, thinks that he is limited, he is a beggar. And he suffers from the limitations of the beggar. He does not have to become the beggar, doesn't have to be the beggar, just has to feel that he is beggar. Similarly also, I don't have to be limited to feel a sense of limitation. I just have entertained a notion. And therefore, all of the sadness is created on account of notions that we entertain about ourselves. Arjuna, this is how it is. So when you go into the world, now you are a wise person. You know that Atma, the self, is a non-doer, non-performer, is ever free. But people do not know that. So leave them alone. That's what Lord Krishna says, concluding the topic of how we should not unsettle the minds of the people. In the verse 29, Prakruter guna sammudhaha sajjante guna karmasu tāna krishna vido mandan krishna vinna vichalayed Prakrute guna sammudhaha, those who are deluded by the modifications of Prakriti, sajjante guna karmasu, become bound in terms of the modifications. That means those who are identified with the matter become bound by the thought that I am limited. So on account of identification with the upadhi that is limited, I feel a sense of limitation. And then I suffer from this false sense of limitation. And then I try to become free from the sense of limitation. I struggle and I perform variety of actions. And I create variety of results. They perhaps sometimes reduce suffering, sometimes increase suffering. That's how it goes on. Tan akrishna vido mandan krishna vinna vichale. So here Arjuna, these people are ignorant. And you, who is wise or knowledgeable, should not unsettle their mind. Don't tell them, hey, who is performing action? What direction? What result? What bondage? Don't say this to them. Let them perform the actions with enthusiasm for the reward. Let them do that. If you want to tell them something, say this. When parents listen to these talks and when we talk about detachment and so forth, but Swamiji, when we talk to our children, we always tell them to always aim high. Now here you are saying that we should not have ambitions, we should not have this and we should not have that. And we tell our youngsters, what will happen to them? I say, don't tell them this. But Swami, you are saying, I said, I am saying to you, if this lecture was to be given to them, I would not say these things. What should you tell them? Aim high. That means that they will go into the same samsara. But you tell them this, that when you are aiming high, when you want to achieve your goals, make sure that you do not compromise the means for the end. Which means that be fair. Follow the basic values of... That's enough for the youngsters. We can't tell them this is all mithya and maya and what is, that... Okay, ma'am, I listen to Swami V. I think there is no need to go to university now, all right. We don't want that, because then who will make money and who will support this ashram? So we want them to do this. But however, in order that they do not get entangled into that, it is necessary to tell them that you perform the actions, but follow the values. May you pursue artha and kama, the youngsters will pursue. They have value for pleasure and they have value for comfort. And at this time, there is no mood to listen to this teaching that all these artha and kama are mithya. There is no way that this is going to impact them. And therefore, what we have to tell them is, fine, you may pursue your artha and kama, pleasure and comfort, but on the basis of dharma, on the basis of righteousness. Do not compromise the values. Do not compromise the means for the sake of end. This is fine. So as far as that is what Lord Krishna says. So tell them what is appropriate and what is useful to them. After 25, 30 years, when they have enough knocks in their life and have discovered certain realities of life by themselves, when then they will come to us, then we'll tell them that this is all mithya and this is all... Leave it up. But not until then. So that's what Lord Krishna says. Tan akrishna vidaha mandan krishna vinna vichale. Do not unsettle their mind. Right now he wants to become a doctor. Let him become. He must become not any doctor, a good doctor, a specialist, a super specialist. Encourage. But be compassionate to your patients and become a doctor with this attitude that may you serve your patients. You use your abilities, use your talents, use your skills in not exploiting people, but in helping people. Perhaps that you may not be able to earn as much as some other doctors may do, doesn't matter. But at least you have value for helping the people. So that this very attitude of at least using my... So first thing is to do is to make sure that whatever talents and abilities we have, they are, we have to invoke them and we have to develop them to the best and use them properly and hopefully use them in helping the people. So this is what we should do to our children, that they should have value for dharma, the values, and secondly, they may have a spirit of helping the people and not exploiting the people. That they want money is fine, but not money by hurting other people. Money that comes in the process of helping other people is the money that will bless them, and money that comes by hurting others will hurt them. So these are the kind of things, this much we say to the youngsters who are starting their life. To other people now, Swamiji, I am at the age of retirement, and this, that. Then for them, this is it, that Purusha Prakriti Viveka, discrimination between self and non-self, detachment, whatever. And therefore, all right, so there were these few verses in between to explain the mechanism of what it is that causes attachment. Now Lord Krishna in the 30th verse comes back to the main topic of Karma Yoga again. He picks up the thread again. So this is the 30th verse. Mayi sarvani karmani, Mayi sarvani karmani, Sanyasyadhyatma cetasa, Sanyasyadhyatma cetasa, Nirashir nirmamo bhutva, Nirashir nirmamo bhutva, Yudhyasva vigatajvaraha, Yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. So this is the instruction given to a person who wants to perform action in the spirit of Karma Yoga. So this 30th verse is a very beautiful verse. It's a verse worth remembering because it tells in a nutshell what all is involved in Karma Yoga. Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya, renouncing all actions unto me. This renouncing should be really understood as offering all actions unto me. The word is sanyasya, which can be translated as renouncing, but here, sanyasya meaning offering all your actions to me. Offering all actions unto me, meaning that performing all your actions in the spirit of devotion to me. Who am I? I am the Lord. So Lord Krishna here talks from the standpoint of Lord. I am the Lord. I am the self of all. I am the creator and I am the creation. I am omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. I am the ordainer. I am the very order. I am the very harmony in the creation. To me, who is the order? To me, who is the harmony? To me, who is the benevolent order? To me, may you offer all your actions. Which means that when you perform your actions, may you perform your actions in the spirit of benevolent order. The order is not a mechanical order that we are talking about. When we say there is order in life, it's not a mechanical order. It is a live order and not only that but benevolent order. So Lord Krishna says, understand, offering actions to Lord. Who is Lord? Nothing but self of all. As Vedanta explains, the Lord is the very creation. He is creator as well as the creation. And therefore, it is Lord Krishna, Lord alone, who is manifest before me in the form of this universe. And therefore, whatever it is that I confront is God. So is my neighbor also, he is also God. My boss is also God. This fellow is also God. Whoever it is God. And therefore, a spirit of pleasing this God, in whatever form he comes before me. This is the attitude. Not easy, but then to the extent that we can follow this. So there is no way that I can please this person. No way. All right, forget it. There are many others, you can try to do. I am not saying that you have to get frustrated with certain things. But just because it is difficult to deal with a few people, doesn't mean that everybody is like that. Maybe it is difficult to deal with my boss, with the spouse, with the neighbor, somebody or the other anyway. But there are many others. The idea is that may my actions become a source of happiness or solace or joy for somebody. That is, I perform whatever actions I do with the spirit that may this action please the Lord in a given form. That is, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya, offering all your actions to me. So make every action an offering to me. You see, we perform what we call archana here every evening. We utter one name of Lord Dakshinamurti and offer a flower at the feet of the Lord. Another name, another flower. This process is called archana. In the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna says, Swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manava. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam. Lord, who is God? So Lord Krishna defines. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam. So So that from whom the whole universe, the whole creation has come about, and the one who is responsible for all the activities. So one because of which things are what they are, and one because of which the things are moving. So one who is responsible for the existence and awareness and intelligence everywhere, and one who pervades everything, that is God. So that I am able to talk is because of what? Because of God. That you are able to hear is because of what? Because of God. That I can walk, I can talk, I can do whatever I can do, or whatever anybody does, that the wind blows because of God. Water flows because of God. Sun rises because of God. So one who is behind every activity, one on account of whom every activity anywhere takes place, and one who pervades everywhere, one who is the intelligence behind everything, one who is the dynamism behind everything, and one who pervades everything. That is God. Swakarmana tamabhyarcha, worshipping Him with one's own actions. So that every action become an archana. Like Om Achyutaya Namaha, I say, flower. So this one action can become a flower offered at the feet of the Lord. Another action becomes another flower offered at the feet of the Lord. So every action is like a flower offered at the feet of the Lord. It doesn't matter what action it is. Lord Krishna says, Yat karoshi, yad ashnasi, yad juhoshi, dadasi yat tapassasi kaunte, tat kurushva madarpanam. Yet whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer to the gods, whatever penance you perform, whatever austerities you perform, whatever charities you give, whatever you do it in such a manner that it becomes an offering to me. And therefore, we can remind ourselves, before performance of any action, I remind myself, may this action please the Lord. May this action be an offering to Lord. Even this much is enough. Just reminding myself. Swami, will it not become mechanical? It can become mechanical, but try not to make it mechanical. It is reminding myself before doing anything that may this be an offering to the Lord. Which Lord, wherever He is, let this be an offering to Him. It is true that to please somebody, we should know that somebody, what their choices are, that we should know. How do I know this action will please the Lord? Do whatever Lord likes you to do. So in order to please somebody, we should know what that somebody likes. Therefore, when they invite a Swami for Bhiksha, they always find out beforehand, what is the Swami like? How much sugar does he like in his coffee, and what kind of milk does he like? Is it 2% or what percent, and so forth. And everything they know. What kind of cereal he likes and what kind of this he likes. Everything they come to know. Because there is a spirit or the intention of pleasing. So if you want to please God, then we should find out what kind of things He likes. That is where the scriptures are, which unfold the nature of God. But in simple manner, all we can say that even if an action is performed simply in keeping with the basic values of life, God will be pleased. That is, if I make sure that my action does not violate anybody, does not hurt anybody, then there is truthfulness, there is honesty. If these basic values are followed in life, that will be enough at this time that the Lord will be pleased. Because if the order is the Lord, then an action that is performed in keeping with the order also is in order. And is that very order that is taught to us in the form of different values. So non-violence, the truthfulness, these values that we are taught are nothing but that same order as implemented in different situations of life. So to begin with, if I just commit myself to perform my actions in keeping with the values, that also is wonderful. And then while performing action, I can also remind myself that I am able to do this because I am enjoying a grace. That I have the opportunity to do something, that's a grace. That I have the ability to do something, that's a grace. It's a privilege. That I can perform an action, it's a privilege. It's a grace, it's a privilege. This also is devotion to Lord. That makes me an humble person, and therefore performing my actions with a sense of humility. Not false humility, but humility that arises from recognition of the facts. So that is our Lord, that is what is Adhyatma Chetasa. This is how the thought process goes on while performing action. Here Shankaracharya explains a nice method of how I can offer my actions to the Lord. So, here Shankaracharya says that Aham karta Ishwaraya bhrutyavat karomi. That I am a servant of the Lord and I am performing this action. The Lord is my master. I am performing this action as his servant. Some kind of relationship should be established with Lord. This is required. In what we call bhakti or the devotion, the primary requirement is that we establish some kind of a relationship with the Lord. One of the relationships is that he is a master, I am the servant. He is a father, I am son. Whatever you like. So, but here one relationship is Lord is the master. By his command I am performing this action. I am performing the action to please him. See, when a servant performs an action, you may not know what a servant is, but in India we know what a servant is. A cook. In this world they don't know what a servant is. But in India, like, we may have a cook. This cook comes and cooks in the ashram for the Swami. So when the cook cooks food there, food for whom? For Swami. So whenever he is adding spices, into dal and something like that, in what way is he going to add the spices? He will remember the Swami. How much Swamiji likes? Oh, the black pepper, this much. Green pepper, no. Red pepper, no. This much, yes, no. So whenever he is cooking the food and adding seasoning and spicing and whatever he is doing, what is he thinking about? He is thinking about the Swami. If he made the same dish for himself, it would look quite different. He would not eat this food. The cook will not eat this food. This is the hospital food, he says, So, I don't want that. When he eats food, it is really spiced and, hot and whatever it is. But he doesn't make that, he doesn't cook food that way when he comes to the ashram. He cooks food in a manner that will please the Swami. What items will he cook? Also, that which pleases the Swami. So you see, while cooking, all the time, at least one corner of his mind is all the time meditating upon the Swami. Is it not so? Because he must make sure that the food is suitable to what the Swami likes. And he is doing it. So this is called offering the action. In offering action, a certain love is involved. He can't do this unless he has some love for the Swami. If he doesn't have love, then also he can do in a professional manner. But if he has love, then it will be done nicely. So if it is done with love, with an intention of pleasing, all the time you meditate also upon the person. So if I want to please God, all the time I meditate upon God. What would Lord like? Oh, He would like me to be truthful. He would like me to be non-violent. He would like me to do this. He would like me to offer. He would like me to please somebody. I keep remembering and I do that. Adhyatma Chedasa. So this is how, thinking in this manner in my mind, I perform the actions as offering to the Lord. And also further conditions. Nirashihi nirmama bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvara. Nirashihi. Hey Arjuna, when you perform the action in this manner, then do not have any expectation of reward. Let me remind you again that when we talk of the detachment from result of the action, the result of the action has these two dimensions. One is the tangible result that comes, which is what we call related by cause and effect. That when you do something, it is going to produce a certain effect. That is the result. That is fine. I cannot be indifferent to that result. Even when I am talking right now, there is hope. The expected result is that these words will convey the thoughts in my mind and that they will be received and understood. I cannot be indifferent to that result. I must be very conscious about that. But there is another part of the result also. That after listening to this talk, at the end of this talk, 15 people will come to me, Swamiji, what a wonderful talk. How nicely you said. What is what? And that I will receive congratulations. I will receive whatever, and that will be the gratification of my ego. I will feel so good. Now this is the second part of the result, which is what we call the self-gratification. And this is where the detachment comes. When I am cooking the food, I cannot be indifferent to the food that is being cooked. I must make sure that it is done properly. But that my guests will eat the food and they'll say, how wonderful, and so forth. Oh, we never ate this kind of a thing before. And in fact, sometimes that part is more important to me than even the food. And what disappoints me is that when people fail to appreciate that, Swami, look at these fellows. Not a single person even said a kind word to me. I worked so hard, I did so much, and nobody had the courtesy even to say the food was good. I feel so disappointed. Lord Krishna says that, may you feel appointed or happy because you were able to cook and that they ate. Let your satisfaction come from that rather than that they appreciated what you did. This is all. That is called the distance. This much distance we have to create. We have to create just that emotional distance with the result. That is called detachment. That's all. This is what Lord Krishna expects, nothing else. And because it is that attachment or that desire for the personal reward is what is the source of all sorrow. Because more often than not, my expectation of that personal gratification doesn't get satisfied and I feel disappointed and frustrated. So, Lord Krishna, nirashihi, keep that part away. Don't have any kind of an expectation or demand for a personal gratification, for a personal reward. Nirmamo bhutva, this is called nirashihi. Freedom from expectation. Nirmama, that's I should not have a personal agenda in short, with reference to the result. Nirmamo bhutva. Nirmamaha, free from sense of ownership that this is mine. This is also a big thing. Sense of ownership that this is mine. When I perform an action, I have the sense of ownership that this is my skill, my ability, my knowledge, my whatever. Lord Krishna says that try to give up that sense of ownership also. Remember that this body also is given to you. You are not the owner, you are just the possessor of that body. So you possess a body, you possess certain skills, you possess abilities, you possess knowledge, you possess all of this, but then you are not the owner of them. That is not your property. And therefore, whatever is produced by that is not your property. It is the property of whoever has given this to you, and therefore, it all belongs to God. This is a tough job, That whatever is out, that I am not the owner of that outcome. Outcome does not belong to me. Outcome belongs to the one who has created all of this, who has given all of this to me. Nirmama bhutva. This is most ideal. But we try to get elements of this in our life. Slowly and slowly it will come. But we should know what is meant by karma yoga. Yudhyasva vigatajvara. And then perform the action without jvara. Jvara means fever. Fever means here anxieties. So when you perform action without the anxieties. How will I be judged and what will happen, etc. Free from that anxiety. Free from sense of ownership. Free from a demand for a personal reward, we perform the action in the spirit of offering to the Lord. This is in brief, the instruction of karma yoga. See that bhakti, the devotion is right there. The karma also is there, devotion is there, even knowledge also is there. I must know what is the nature of a value. I must know what is the nature of God. I must know what is the nature of offering. And therefore you cannot compartmentalize this karma, bhakti and jnanam. All of them go together. And each one helps the other one. Okay, so let us see if we get a chance to continue this, but at least this completes really the lesson on karma yoga. So whatever we have to learn in the third chapter, we have learned it all. The karma yoga part is all learned here, okay? Right. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmevi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.